Warning, this video contains spoilers for the entire game of Lies of P. In this video I discuss bosses, mechanics, areas, and more, and I urge you to go play Lies of P first if you have not already before watching this video. Anyway, enjoy the video, and of course, thank you for watching. I platinum Lies of P in around 64 hours over 3 different playthroughs, and I gotta say I love the experience. Lies of P is by no means a perfect game, however I feel as though it was definitely a pleasant surprise. I had played about half of the demo getting up to the Crowd Hotel, and I honestly got kinda bored. However, I bought the game once it came out and I was absolutely blown away at how impressive the game was. Everything from the level design to the bosses, the music, the vibe, and so many other factors of this game were nothing short of amazing. I haven't played many games in the Souls-like subgenre, but I can definitely say that Lies of P is miles better than Code Vein or Mortal Shell could ever dream of being. I truly believe that this game has earned itself the title of the best Souls-like game and might even beat a couple of the official games in the Soulsborne genre. Maybe I'll do a Souls game ranking soon. The way I want to format this video is by going through every major aspect of this game, such as bosses, areas, mood/ambience, and you get it. Let's start with arguably the most important aspect of any Souls game, the bosses. The boss roster of Lies of P is absolute dog shit at worst, but absolutely amazing at its best. When it comes to what I call the introduction of the game, which includes the first 3 bosses, these 3 were all a very good introduction to what the game had in store down the line. The Parade Master was a very solid first fight. While it wasn't any Cleric Beast or Udex Gundyr, it still holds up and does a lot of things well. He's placed in a good spot in the game and tests the player to see if they can use the knowledge that they have accumulated thus far from exploring through the Crowd Central Station. The Mad Donkey is a good introduction to the Stalker fights in the game, which I don't love overall. However, there are some exceptions such as the Red Fox and the White Lady. These Stalker fights are held back by the fact that they can all be quite easy to cheese. If you know how to exploit them, you've basically already won, and I believe that that is their biggest flaw. The Scrap the Watchman is one of my favorite bosses in the game, and it was probably my first wall that I hit. His timings were very tricky, but well telegraphed, making his fight fun and challenging, but also not complete BS. His second phase was also fun, as it required the player to be very cautious as well as quick on their feet. This second phase trend continues on to most of the bosses in this game, which I have heard some people complain about. However, I do not think it is as bad as some people make it out to be. My 3 favorite bosses in this game all have very long fights with 2 phases, which I believe can be exhilarating. To quickly speed through some of the other bosses, the Puppet of the Future is the last giant from DS2 but worse. King's Flame Fuoco and Champion Victor are both okay fights but largely disappointing. Andreas was fun and very visually stunning. The Green Monster of the Swamp is a fun yet challenging boss. The Corrupted Parade Master was a fun refight that shows you how far you had come. Simon Manus is a fucking bitch. The Mad Clown Puppet is annoying. The Walker of Illusions is D tier. Door Guardian is the worst fire giant. Romeo, Laxasi, and Nameless are 3 amazing bosses with challenging but not over the top difficulty. Looking at you, Melania. They're all beautifully designed, have exceptional lore and varied movesets. And the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. Oh god, the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. The first fight with these 4 was pretty fun. It was an interesting take on a gank boss that I hadn't seen before, and I enjoyed the variety of the brothers and their movesets. Except for the youngest brother, but besides him, the fight was well balanced. The second encounter was an absolute shit show, however. Remember how I said that some bosses were dog shit? I was referring to these 4. I have no idea what went wrong when they made this, and I feel as though with a few changes, this boss could be pretty decent. First of all, get rid of the damn range attacks. With the small arena, I can never keep an eye on all of the brothers at a time, and getting a fucking bomb thrown at me or getting pulled away while fighting one of the brothers just has to be one of the most annoying things ever. And like, why does this little shit have decay? Just, why would you do that? Next, I want to talk about the world of Lies of P. When it comes to the visual design and mood, this game hits the nail right on the head. The world of Lies of P truly feels like it has been through a lot. And whether you're walking down a prosperous road, or exploring an opera house, or uncovering mysterious ruins that have been lost for years, every area has its own feel to it while still not feeling at all out of place. The world is extremely visually stunning, and each little part of it tells a unique story. When it comes to the level design, I was immediately blown away by this game in the first area. Besides a few exceptions, the level design in this game was on the level of something I would expect from FromSoft themselves. The first area is relatively linear, however it serves as a good introduction to the game. However, when we reach Elysion Boulevard, we most definitely hit the ground running. Exploring this area was mind-blowing to me. There was so much to do, from the rooftops to the city streets. It felt as though it didn't stop. Other areas such as Vanini Works and St. Frangelico's Cathedral have an unbelievable amount of little secrets and side paths to lead to other things. Vanini Works literally has 2 mini-bosses in this level. And to quickly go through some of the levels in this game, the Malum District has a perfect dark and gloomy mood with level and area design to match. Rosa Isabel Street and the Stella Opera House feel fleshed out and like they were places that people actually went to. The Lorenzini Arcade is super intricate with so many ways to go, and the Grand Exhibition has a lot of story behind it with great level design to back it. The Barren Swamp was not my favorite area, however it was quite long and included multiple mini-bosses and little secrets to find. The revisit to Krat Central Station was done in a really thought out way, and it was fun exploring a place that felt new, yet so similar. Collapse Krat was one of the worst video game areas that I have ever gone through. The Relic of Trismegistus was slightly disappointing, but Arki Abbey was grand with an unbelievable amount of character behind it with its sub-areas that vary vastly in feeling. Arki Abbey feels like multiple levels put together and was a very solid way to close out the game. Lies of P had a very consistent and well executed atmosphere with gorgeously horrifying visuals and exceptional level design to back it. There were a few instances where I got tired of exploring this mysterious world, although not many. Although it is not the most important aspect to myself personally, the story of these games is still obviously one of the most important features. Without a proper story, it may be harder to connect with players and keep them interacted with the game. Lies of P takes a very traditional approach to its story, comparable to games such as FromSoft's Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice or Sucker Punch's Ghost of Tsushima. There's not a lot of lore in this game for players to uncover, as the story is more so told to you via your actual experiences in the game and interactions with the world and NPCs. To roughly sum up the story, you, Pinocchio, are on a journey to find the cause of and exterminate the phenomenon known as the puppet frenzy. Puppets have lost control and murdered every human in sight, and you are trying to figure out why. You are a special puppet, however, as you can disobey the rules which were set for puppets known as the Grand Covenant. The most important rule you break is number 4, which states that puppets cannot lie. However, you can. If you are watching this video, I'm going to assume that you have already completed the game. However, if you have not and would like to skip some major spoilers for the story, skip to the time frame that you see on screen, as I'm about to spoil a lot. You were created by a man known as Geppetto, a man who is grieving the loss of his late son Carlo. He is the cause for everything that has happened in the story, and his entire goal is to get his son back through you. Throughout your journey, meeting lovable characters and defeating hellish foes, you have been accumulating ergo. Ergo is a sort of memory energy that has been physically crystallized. From my understanding, which could be wrong, the more ergo you attain, the more human you become, although I could be wrong. By the time you reach the end of the game, you have accumulated so much ergo that Geppetto believes you could bring his son back with your heart.
You can become a real human. Come to me, my son.
You see, in a sense, you are his dead son. He created you, an exact replica of his son, in the hopes that he could one day see his actual son again. Whether you give him your heart or not is your choice. However, going through with his wishes may not be the best idea.
If you give me your heart, all these trials and tribulations will be over. You have been a brilliant and a good boy. As your reward, I shall turn you into a real boy. Give me your heart, son.
Lies of P also has side characters with their own story, my personal favorite being the story of the famed opera singer Adelina and her sister Patricia, aka the bossy fight known as the White Lady.
Oh, what a beautiful puppet you are. I can hear your springs even if you try to hide them. Musicians have keen ears, you know. Would you like to sing for me like your friends? I have a feeling the sound of your cries will be especially sweet. Let's have an encore performance of Pain for the Red actress, Adelina Corday.
Adelina and Patricia were both famed opera singers. They both had glory, however Adelina wanted more. So she ended up poisoning her own sister, which destroyed her sister's vocal cords and ripped away her ability to sing. Adelina then rose to fame as an opera singer by herself, while her sister remained in the dirt and had to make a decision. The thing is, she didn't know that her sister was the one who poisoned her. Not knowing this, Patricia decided to become a stalker and Adelina's personal bodyguard. Little did she know, however, she was protecting the same person who ruined her life and is arguably responsible for her death, which happens at your hands. You can find Patricia on Rosa Isabel Street, going under her alias of the White Lady. She fights you to protect her sister, not for any other reason. When you deal the finishing blow to her, she compares her dress to her sister's dress. Her sister's dress is red and hers is white, however she's referencing that her white dress is now soaked in her own blood and that it matches the red of her sister's dress.
Attire as your sister. As promised.
You can find Adelina in the Stella Opera House in the same level, suffering from the petrification disease. If you give her the red apple bought from Polendina in Hotel Krot, she confesses what she has done. You can later return to her after having defeated the king of the puppets and you'll find that she has died, full of regret for what she had done to her sister. It's a really tragic story and is but one of the many intriguing side stories that you'll find during your adventure through the city of Krot. Next, although this is probably not that popular of a topic in this kind of videos, I want to talk about the audio design of this game. I feel as though the audio in video games is a very underrated feature and should definitely be talked about more than it is. The most obvious thing that comes to mind when talking about audio is the music, and while there are some pretty decent soundtracks in the game, there's still something left to be desired. My personal favorite boss music is that of Romeo, the King of Puppets. However, my favorite overall OST in the game has got to be Feel. Romeo's theme just fits in a way that I can't really put into words. It just sort of feels like it belongs in an opera house, if that makes sense, and it really fits Romeo and the story that surrounds him. Feel is just such a mood, and it sort of reminds me of Majula's theme from Dark Souls 2. This song is just super calming to me and is the only song in the game that I actually listen to outside of playing the game. When it comes to sound effects, Liza P just absolutely nails it. Strong hits feel and sound strong, weak hits feel and sound weak, and that parry sound, it's just perfect. Nothing will ever come close to the parrying of Sekiro, however I will say that this definitely is not bad at all. The voice acting is very solid with just a few bad apples in the bunch.
You lost, little lamb. Hand over all you got.
And it feels that I am actually talking to real people and not just scripted characters. The ambience of fascination faintly playing while you explore Rosa Isabel Street and the announcer talking when you arrive to the Grand Exhibition are just two examples of how this game utilizes audio to enhance its atmosphere. It is all just done so well, and it really just adds to the overall feeling and vibe I get from this game. Now, let's talk game mechanics. As has been probably said countless times before, this game's combat system is a sort of combination of Bloodborne and Sekiro. Like Bloodborne, your character opts for quick dashes rather than rolling, and like Sekiro, parrying is instantaneous unlike it is in other Souls games. You can also opt for dodge rolling if you really want to by not locking onto enemies, however. This essentially gives players 3 different ways to play the game. My first playthrough, I genuinely did not know about the parrying system, so I just dodged the entire game like I was playing Bloodborne. My second playthrough, however, I decided to parry everything I could, and it was just so unbelievably fun, especially as someone who is absolutely head over heels in love with Sekiro's combat system. While certain bosses had movesets that called for different playstyles, the game still does not fully stop you from experimenting and playing how you want to. In Lies of P, I especially really like the health system. It is similar to Soulsborne games in the sense that you put levels into your health bar, however the way it plays in-game is super unique. When you block, your health goes down, however you enter a state which is comparable to the rally system that is present in Bloodborne. You are able to recover the lost health by either attacking your enemy or perfect blocking / parrying them. This state is removed if you get hit again without blocking, however. The bosses sort of have the same system with their health, however it is not as obnoxious as something like Malenia healing with every hit. Instead, when you hit a boss, they enter a similar state that the player does. However, instead of them needing to hit you again, they simply heal themselves. On paper, this definitely seems like a bullshit mechanic, however it is very well done in practice. The healing is not at all obnoxious, and it can be controlled by the player if they continuously attack. There is also a mechanic where players can actually gain a healing flask back if they hit an enemy enough, encouraging aggressive yet cautious behavior. The developers obviously had the goal of making it so that the player remains very aggressive and active in the fight. The game does not want you to dodge combos and wait for openings. It wants you to trade blows, dodging in and out of danger, forcing you to stay close to the bosses rather than stay away. This system ties into the fact that this game has very few range options, with the few options being a pretty mediocre Legion arm and some throwable consumables, and that's basically it. The game makes you play it how it wants you to play it, sort of like how Sekiro did it. However, unlike Sekiro, it still gives the player decent variety when it comes to weapons, which is something that I will get to. First, however, let's talk about the Legion arm. Similar to how Sekiro does, P has a mechanical arm which the player can give various attachments to. These include a basic metal arm to punch with, a grappling hook to pull enemies in, an exploding shield, a flamethrower, an electric zapping thing, a poison status throwing thing, an explosive mind planter, and a goddamn gun. Which still isn't too good to be completely honest, but it's still a gun. This arm gives the player a tool that allows them to further customize their playthrough while still remaining true to what the game wants you to do, which is close quarter combat. It is by no means anything to make a build around, however it gives the player more options, which is definitely welcome. A unique mechanic that Liza B has in it is a skill tree. It isn't a traditional skill tree that you would see in a game like Horizon Zero Dawn or Ghost of Tsushima, however, as it is quite unique. There are different levels in the skill tree, all of which include 4 main skills. These main skills are unlocked via a rare item called quartz. These quartz are put into sub-skills to unlock the main skills. For example, a main skill may be to increase the amount of healing flasks. You would then need to use quartz to unlock sub-skills that will then unlock the full thing. Perhaps the main skill to increase your healing flask requires you to unlock 3 sub-skills. You would then use 3 quartz to unlock these, which will then unlock your main skill. You need to unlock a certain amount of main skills in order to move on to the next level, which I find to be pretty nice, as it sets a good pacing for the skill tree, ensuring that you don't become too broken in one specific field all at once while you're still early in the game. Further, there is a posture mechanic in the game which I would compare to Sekiro. Attacking an enemy or parrying attacks build up their invisible posture bar. You know when it is full when the enemy's health starts pulsating. When this happens, you can do a charge heavy attack or certain weapon arts and the enemy will be staggered. When they are staggered, you can get a critical hit on them, which is similar in nature to a visceral attack from Bloodborne. Speaking of weapon arts, it is probably about time that I get to talking about the weapons in this game. This game takes a similar approach to Bloodborne when it comes to weapons, in the sense that there are less weapons with higher quality. As you probably already know, the weapons are split into 2 different parts. These 2 parts are the blade and the handle. The handle of the weapon deals with its moveset and how Pete uses it. The blade is a part of the weapon that you can upgrade and basically has the purpose of damage. Both of these parts have their own unique weapon arts as well, which are basically Ashes of War from Elden Ring. My go-to combination during a lot of my playthrough was the Dancer's Curved Sword Blade with the Salamander Dagger handle, since it made my weapon act as a lance while still retaining its damage and weapon art. I am in love with this system, honestly even more than I am with Bloodborne's system. Despite the lack of quantity of weapons and the fact that this game wants you to fight in close quarter scenarios, there is still an insane amount of variety in how you can play. You can mix and match to your heart's content, meaning that absolutely anyone can find a build that suits their playstyle. Additionally, there are boss weapons similar to other Souls games. You acquire these by getting boss's ergo and then talking to one of 2 NPCs that can give you the weapon in exchange for the ergo. These weapons are all one piece, meaning you cannot separate the handle from the blade, which I feel is fair due to how unique some of these weapons are. There are also smaller mechanics such as grindstones, which are comparable to fire/lightning paper from Bloodborne or resins from Dark Souls. These obviously apply status effects to your weapons, and it is fun to mess around with different buffs depending on what the boss is weak to. You can also use an item known as a cube. The cube enables you to use items known as wish stones, which grant different buffs. Many of them also buff your Spectre, which is an NPC that you can summon to find alongside you during boss fights. Or, if you're like me, you prefer not to use summons. However, of course, everyone plays these games differently, and I am by no means going to gatekeep these mind-blowing works of arts just because people want to play them differently than I do. If you summon, then continue doing so. If you don't want to, then just don't. The last thing I want to talk about is New Game Plus. In some FromSoft games, it feels as though the New Game Plus never had much difference to base New Game, except for the spike in difficulty, of course. I always liked the exception to this, which was the New Game Plus of Dark Souls 2, and I like how this game leaned more into doing something like that. In New Game Plus, you get the pretty standard buff to enemies, which I feel is a near perfect buff. It's not so easy like the New Game Plus is in Dark Souls Remastered or Sekiro, but it's not so bullshit like the New Game Plus is in Elden Ring or Bloodborne. It buffs bosses so that you still have to take some time to defeat them again and not just fly through them. Some other things that New Game Plus does is letting you get +1 variants to parts, and it also unlocks 2 new levels in the P-Organ skill tree, with one of them unlocking with New Game Plus and the second unlocking with New Game Plus 2. There are also some new records to run around and obtain, giving the player another goal for them to reach. Further, a feature that does not actually affect any gameplay, but is actually my favorite feature of New Game Plus, is the fact that you can understand what puppet bosses are saying. Before, their speech would all be jumbled and hard to make out. Now, however, they are clear, and some bosses such as Romeo actually speak coherently, which was just a beautiful little touch that I love.
This is what real freedom feels like. Thank you, Carlo.
There's also the little touch that if you found it before, you still have access to the same Test of Mercy statue that allows you to respec. The New Game Plus of this game is really unique, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. My final thoughts on this game are simply that I love it, and if I had to choose a game as my game of the year, it would definitely be this one. Liza P was a very surprising game with an intriguing story, beautiful visuals, and is a hell of a lot of fun due to its combat system, its variety in weapons, as well as its bosses. We got a sneak peek of a possible future DLC or sequel via a post-credits scene, and I genuinely cannot wait to see what we get next from Neowiz. Liza P was a very challenging, yet fun and overall exceptional game, and it is one that I believe everyone should give a chance. My first playthrough of Liza P took me around 30 hours, and the Platinum Trophy took over double that at 64 hours. I enjoyed a lot of the game, and there weren't many parts that notably stressed me out. None of the trophies were a particular pain to get, with just a few requiring you to get collectibles. I had fun with my time on Liza P, and if a DLC does come out, I will definitely be one of the first to buy it. I platinum Liza P, and these have been my thoughts on the game with an additional vague breakdown of what this game offers in various aspects. If I missed anything in this video, please let me know in the comments. This is my first attempt at making a video like this, so I highly doubt I didn't forget at least something. Thank you for watching, and of course, have a great rest of your day or night.
Little bit of an editor's note here. During the editing of this video, I reached 1,000 subscribers, which is just mind-blowing to me. I want to thank each and every single one of my viewers for getting me to that number, and I know that a lot of those came from that one video I posted over a year and a half ago, but regardless, I am extremely grateful for reaching this. I look forward to making more content in the future, and of course, thank you for watching. You are the reason why I'm making this video right now. Thank you.
Just want your step when we dance.